Stephen, I never know if I should stay at an event or leave an event. But when I decide to leave an event, I then decide that I should have stayed at the event, but then I get FOMO. I get so much FOMO, man.
Stephen, I guess I said I was going to take off today and not go back to the golf, but I realized the golf doesn't start till 11 o'clock, and it might be a good opportunity to go get a couple of more shots on the course to then be able to develop them tomorrow before going out for Saturday and Sunday, which are the final 2 rounds of the event.
You've been there almost every day, right?
I started going to this is what we're talking about. I went to there's a golf tournament, a PGA event called the Truist, and it's never here. It's always in South Carolina, but they have a different event next week, and this is the only year it's going to be up in, they say Philly, but it's like an hour outside. Well, it's 35 minutes with no traffic. Sorry, 34 minutes with no traffic.
Is it technically Philly?
No,
it's
right?
It's
Wissahickon.
Why do they say Philly?
Because it's like when you ask someone, where are you from? And they go, Philly. And you're like, me too. What part? And they're like, Delco. You're like, you're not from Philly or New Hope or Newtown or anywhere surrounding. Like, so when people ask me, I'm like, Philly suburbs. And then if someone is from the area, they go, all right, where? And then you start going, Bucks County. And then if they go like, really? Where? And then you distill it even down further to the little town. But it's...
Do you know little Johnny on the corner?
Yeah, Johnny. Yeah, man. Johnny's doing good. Or like the girl that came
Dr.
up to
Pepper?
me. Well, how about the girl that came up to me, the woman that came up to me at the event the other day and was like, you look familiar. I'm like, is it because we're Jewish together? And I'm like, do you want to play Jewish geography?
She looked at the other guy next door. She's like, it is a thing.
Well, it really is Jewish geography, but I didn't know her. Jewish geography, for those that don't know, is where you're like, did you go to so-and-so camp? I did. Did you know so? I know so-and-so. And that's like how all Jews are connected because there's so few of us anyway, but whatever. But the Truist event is a real PGA event. I believe it has a $20 million purse, and I think the winner gets like $4 million. Wow. So they get a shit ton of money. It's much different than the PBA, which is the Professional Bowlers Association, where the winner gets
$100,000 check.
The last place, the 70th place golfer this week, I believe gets over $100,000 is what we were told.
What place?
70th. There's only 70 players.
The person in last gets $100,000.
Let's see, Truist.
So no matter what, you're getting paid a decent amount to play.
Well, don't forget, they also have, what's different is they have less, or they have more, they have coaches that they have to pay. They have their travel they have to pay. So there's all of that that's much different.
Oh, I get it. It's just an insane, it's like getting a trophy for being in last place.
And by the way, it's normally in Charlotte, North Carolina, not South Carolina. So I'm just letting you know. So I'm looking for what the total prize is, $20 million. The winner share is $3.6 million. And this website seems to do a really shitty job that I just looked up of telling us how much someone actually wins. So let's see if this, oh no, I don't want this. Get rid of me. I want to see what this webpage says. They make it so hard to find this information out.
Pre-production at its finest.
Well, yeah, because I never know what I'm going to do until I get there.
I don't even know what we're talking about half the time until about 5 minutes before the show.
Oh, well, Michael Collins got this wrong. The top 11 places will each receive a minimum of $500,000, with the bottom of the leaderboard in 72nd place still earning $36,000.
Still. I mean, it's probably just covering their expenses to get there, paying their
travel,
team and everything. Yeah.
Look, they got to rent. These guys rent like big houses local, and that way their team can stay, or they can stay with their family. And I mean, and then some of them fly private jets when they get here. It's like a totally different ball game. But anyway, I went out to the Truist Monday myself, and the first couple of days, Monday, Tuesday, are practice rounds where it's just the golfers and the course is closed, so there's no guests there. Yesterday was the first day they allowed spectators, and that was for the Pro-Am. And I am using the 4x5. You may have seen on Instagram that I posted one photo of Tony Finau, and he stood for me for a portrait, and it's sharp, which is great because not every one of them that I've taken since is sharp, and I'm still trying to figure out if it's a combination of human error or movement or aperture. It's probably aperture. But the challenge that I've set is to be out there with a 4x5 and capture the moment, which has started to lead into being, I have to be very careful because when I wind the shutter 4 times, it leads to noise, and you got to be very careful during the event to not have noise. So I'm going to have to be super far away and try not to get Steven, speaking of getting yelled at, I don't want to get yelled at. Steven got yelled at by one of the best golfers a top 50 golfer in the world. And by Steven, I mean me.
Let's correct that, please. Yes.
It was a little weird. It was the only time any golfer said anything to me in the 2 days that I was there. No one else had anything to say.
Well, keep in mind too, these were simply practice round days, so there was really nothing on the line.
We were on the chipping area where they're just driving and
it's not
testing.
like we're next to them on the green or something and it's a pro tournament.
There's practice chipping area, practice driving, so the driving range, and they drive, they chip, they do whatever. They've got their computers out there, they got their coaches out there, and I'm moving around getting different angles, and I did that all of Monday without a problem, and then Tuesday only one person had something to say, and that wasn't very good. It wasn't a good feeling what happened there. And then it might have happened yesterday to me by myself at the same time on hole number 4.
Ooh, twice. Same guy?
Same guy. Tee box number 4 and his caddy. Tee box number 4. I set up.
His caddy said something this time.
Oh, his caddy was angry. Yeah.
Who do you think you are? I am.
Yeah, they blame me for his shitty tee shot, which I didn't interfere with because I didn't click the shutter until after the swing. It was only the clicks before the swing, right? But not in the midst of him swinging at all. So I wait. I have the video of it.
They blamed you for that.
Well, he ended up hitting a second tee shot as if it was my fault that he shanked his first drive.
What did they say?
I don't even want to go into it, Steven.
You really don't like getting yelled at.
Could you not make noise during the swing? I'm like, I just stood there. Like, what am I going to say?
I apologize.
I'm not apologizing because I didn't make noise during the swing.
I thought you said you were winding during the swing.
I'm not making any move. He's down. He's over the ball. So yes, if it was a match play, I would never be doing that. But 5 minutes prior, another pro teed off at the same spot. And I did the exact same thing. And you know what that pro did? Whacked the shit out of the ball, picked it up, and walked away. Didn't mind because it's a practice round.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pro-am. So it's not even a practice round. And then they come up and hit a bad shot and then yell at me. And I felt like shit. It really fucking pissed me off for the next bunch of hours because now I'm worried that other people are going to be, but this person seems to complain a lot anyway and whatever.
Twice in 2 days. Damn.
Yeah, not very good because I like during the rounds, I don't want to
when it's more serious, you don't want that to happen.
How far away can you hear my camera is the question. That's what I want to know.
I don't think it's that loud personally, but
the 1, 2, 3, 4, because I have to get the, you know what? I may go to only 3 clicks, which is 1/125th of a second instead of 1/500th. But dude, those clicks are fucking loud. I don't know how we can go with silent clicks, or that didn't exist back then. Now, when I say silent clicks, guys, what I'm talking about is I have to wind the shutter. That's making a clicking noise. The shooting the picture is actually quieter, but that's always after the swing, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
It's usually when some asshole's going Baba Booey. Get in the hole. Dumb shit like that. So before we get into shooting the entire day with Steven being there, we're going to talk about the B&H event when I'm speaking, Canon R6 Mark III rumored specs. We've got Canon 300 to 600 5.6 rumored specs. And we're going to go into details about what we think about the rumors, which are grains of salt in our opinion. But
speaking of rumors, did you see also a Nikon Z7 III?
Yeah, I saw that. Something I didn't see it when my photo news this week. So I didn't really read up on it other than it said they're going to be using Tower Jazz to make a 60-some megapixel sensor.
I find it odd that Canon Rumors posted it, yet Nikon Rumors has nothing about it.
That's because Nikon Rumors sucks. I don't know. I don't even know a Z7 III. You have a Z6 III. I guess it makes sense, but it's like, where are you going to price it? What are you going to price it at? $3,800, which is only a few $100 less than a Z9 and Z8?
Yeah, that's tough.
How do you even have a Z8? What the fuck is the Z8 priced at? I forgot.
The Z8 is probably close to $3,000 at this point, but let's not get off track. Let's keep going with golf, and then we can look into this later.
I want to just see the price of the Z8. $3,500. So how are you going to price a Z7 III? If the Z6 III is $2,500, I don't think the Z7's coming out. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I thought the Z8 pretty much replaced that. Now, granted, I think people still want a high-resolution sensor that's not stacked for the ultimate quality, kind of like an A7R5.
Pussies.
That could be a little more expensive. Maybe that's their $4,000, $5,000 model. That's, the best sensor they make. And then you still have the best of both worlds hybrid camera like the Z8. Personally, I'd rather go with that, even though I'm losing DR and stuff like that. It doesn't really matter.
No one cares. At the end of the day.
No, people do care.
No, they care, but they shouldn't care. No, they care, but it's like indifferent with the amount of stuff that people just use. Like, it's not even what people use. It's indifferent. You never will know the difference, period. Like me with uncompressed and lossless compressed, right? All those years, it's like every time you take a picture with the A1, it's 100 megs, but when you do lossless compress, it's 50 megs, and it's like you'll never know the fucking difference. Steven's being quiet.
Well, you say this stuff, but yet you're not shooting like C-RAW.
You're
zooming in
C-RAW.
1,000,000% to double check focus, even though no one will really ever notice if it's slightly off.
That's personal.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is it's personal to other people.
That's personal.
So it's okay when you do it, but not when other people do it.
I'm Frono's Photo, and I have 1.49 million subscribers, Steven. Okay. It's me. Do you know who you're talking to right now? The guy who got yelled at 2 days in a row at the golf event.
Yep.
Anyway, let's get into the golf. Did you enjoy the event? What'd you think?
Well, in terms of a shooting environment, I thought it was a shit show because we really didn't know what we were doing at first, and we were running around like chickens with our heads cut off. But then once Michael Collins came in, the caddy, and introduced us to a lot of the players, and we got set up with portraits and stuff like that, it was much better, much more organized. We had a plan. We weren't walking around just trying to figure it out. Also, the weather was a big issue when we first showed up. It was supposed to be kind of like a gloomy, dismal day, and it ended up raining off and on the first 2 hours, and a good amount, like enough to have to take cover. So that was tough. I feel like just the first 2 hours we were there was rough. And then again, when Michael came, the skies literally opened up when he came, and we were able to really figure out what we were doing and get the shots we needed. And I was able to get the stuff I needed in terms of B-roll and stuff like that.
Yeah, Michael Collins, for those who don't know, which you probably don't, he goes by the ESPN caddy. He is a golf commentator, former caddy in the PGA Tour, and a friend of mine. He's a good guy. He's from Philly, and he flew up for the day to help go around and connect us with people, which was so helpful.
I kept asking you, I'm like, so what's he flying up for? And you're like, oh, that's something else, blah, blah. I'm like, not for you. And you're like, no. And then when he came, he's like, I flew here for you. I'm like, whoa, that's
told me something
big
else.
Deal, just flying in for you for a few hours to help you out. I mean, talk about a friend.
He wanted to go see the golfers. He didn't tell me he was flying up just for me.
Yeah, but he really spent the entire time with us and helping you out. And the best was pitching you. So before we really get into it, let me just explain what I was there for. I was essentially fly on the wall trying to get behind the scenes B-roll of Jared. Want to do a photo story around shooting with the 4x5, a large tournament, a golf event. We really don't know what we're going to get until we get it. So I'm just filming everything I can because I don't know what the script's going to look like. I don't know if nothing's going to work out. I don't know if Jared's going to get a ton of great photos. Who knows? Trying to get as much as I can B-roll wise of Jared shooting and some B-roll of the players posing, stuff like that. It's not easy shooting you. Let's just say that.
Well, don't forget, I'm not shooting digital, and I'm shooting film and 4x5. When I say shooting film, it's different than people that shoot 35. I'm shooting large format 4x5, which is a super challenging thing to do unto itself when you have all the attention of a subject. But when you try and do it with things that are moving super fast, I mean, do you remember what you said to me after you saw me take pictures?
I didn't think it was going to be such a fast process. I assumed I was going to have like 5 minutes of you like setting up the shot, trying to figure out the pose, trying to figure out the angle. But in reality, the player expected you to take a picture in like 20 seconds, like it's a smartphone, not realizing like it's going to take a minute to set stuff up. But you did take pictures pretty damn fast. I was very surprised at your entire process.
Well, I explain it to them beforehand. So I'm like, hey, this is an old school process. Once I start focusing, I need you to stand still. You can't move because if you move forward or you move back, which they end up doing at some point, and that's why some of them aren't as sharp. They need to lock in. But I explain the process real quick. I pre-check my meter. This is the crazy thing. I check my meter a few times when I'm just standing still, and I know a general idea of what the aperture should be based off of the speed of film and the only 2 shutter speeds that I have. So I know I don't have to check the meter again, because if it got brighter, I know I stop down the aperture a little bit. If it gets darker, I know I open up just a little bit.
And speaking of getting brighter or darker, it was constantly doing that because the clouds were going in and out as the sky was opening up. So that was tough too, because there would be times where we'd have to sit for a few minutes to wait for the cloud to pass, or right before you would shoot, all of a sudden the cloud would overtake the sun, and you're like, damn.
Yeah, I mean but it is a major challenge, not just because it's a slow process, but it's a heavy process. I have to carry that thing around. You know, it's not like I can throw it over my shoulder like I do with a big lens. There's a big difference because that is built differently. This is an 80-plus-year-old box at this point with a heavy lens on the front of it that's from World War II, that's over 80 years at this point. And I've got my backpack with extra film. I've got my fanny pack, belt pack, Press Pass 20 from Think Tank on my fanny pack thingy. And yeah, you saw that it's quick. Like, I get my composition because it's in my head what my composition should be. Then I frame it. I line it up. Everything's backwards. I then focus, wind my shutter, put the thing in, pull the dark slide, click it, done.
And composition wise, I mean, you're getting really just a lot of tight portraits for the most part. You're not getting like composed images really, because there's just a muddy, messy background. So it seemed like a lot of the stuff you were getting was just like a quick, let me just get the player themselves, blur out everything, and move on from there.
It depends on what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did the Tony Finau one where he was on the course, he was on the green, and I did a tilt shift, which I don't know if I should have, but the tilt shift really was just focused literally on his head. But that field of view ends up making the shitty houses in the background in focus.
It almost makes it appear that it's back focused, but in reality, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's just centered around his body, which is not bad at all. It was, but what sucks is there's a beautiful tree next to him. I think I composed the wrong side. I mean, I absolutely did compose the wrong side.
Well, I was going to say, because I specifically got B-roll of that tree because I assumed that's what you were trying to get into the frame. And then I saw the picture after and I'm like, oh, the tree's not even close to in the frame.
Yeah, you know why?
That's what I thought you were focusing on.
I thought I was too. Do you want to be? It was very hard to see the back screen, and I was going fast.
Yeah.
But do you know what happened?
What?
I'm pretty sure because it's backwards, I thought I had him on the left side of the frame, which gave me the leading line into the tree. When in reality, it was upside. It's all backwards and upside down. He ended up being on the right side. Mm-hmm. And then the left side was not the one I wanted. It was just because it happened so fast. It was a last second thing. I composed him on the left thinking I was doing it right, but it's backwards and I needed to go the other way.
And when Jared says it was a last minute thing, basically he went onto the green real quick to talk to him, to show him the portraits he took of him the other day. As we're about to leave, Jared's like, you know what, let me just take a picture real quick. Runs over, sets up the camera, snap, takes the picture, and we leave from there. That's how quick. Like, he wasn't posing for you or anything.
Well, I asked him to hold it.
Yeah, but it wasn't really like a pose shot. It was more like, hey, stand still for a second.
And look over here.
Yeah, but it was a very quick portrait. I don't even think I even got B-roll of you shooting that because it was so fast. And again, I thought this process was going to be a much more slowed down manual process. You're pretty damn quick with that 4x5 these days.
You have to be quick because the shit moves quick.
Of course.
If I'm not quick, and then the winding the shutter is the hardest thing because that takes the longest time, the 4 clicks, and it gets progressively tighter as you wind it. So it's not like a really easy click. It's a looser, medium, super tight, tighter, like to get to the 1/500th.
So back to shooting you, the challenge that I had, I actually brought out the R5 Mark II for the first time on location, like run and gun style. I've used it a bunch in the studio, but I've never really used it in the field. The issue I have always filming you is that I can never get in front of you because you're always shooting whatever's in front of you, and I'm trying to photograph B-roll of you taking photos. So I have very limited framing. I can really only get like profile shots of you behind you, which really does nothing because your afro covers everything in front of you. So I really only have profile views of you. And then anytime I try and zoom in to say get close-up shots of like you using the loop to check focus or winding or using the plunger to take the actual picture, all of that kind of stuff, I really can't get good shots of that because one, it happens so fast, and two, your hair acts like a natural shield around you and blocks everything. So it's very difficult to get any decent B-roll of you filming. Mine is just a generic wide shot of you next to a 4x5 on a tripod. So that is the challenge for me. Really, it's always come down to that. From shooting 5-minute portraits back in the day to today, the afro has always been very limiting in terms of B-roll shots that I can get of you. And again, when you're taking photos, I can never be in front of you. Now, at least back in the day when we would do 5-minute portraits, I would kind of be like, hold on, Jared, let me quickly run in front of you, get a shot of you, get some B-roll to make it look like this is part of the shot. But with the golf stuff, I really couldn't do that because you had extremely limited time with the player to grab a portrait. My goal there that day was to be a fly on the wall, not interact, not get yelled at by certain players. But the R5 Mark II was a pretty awesome camera to use that day. Battery life-wise, I was shocked that I didn't burn through multiple batteries. I did use the new LP E6P batteries. I used 2 of them with the fan grip just in case, because it was going to be a 70, 75 degree day and I didn't know how it was going to be. And I've seen the overheating dialog box come up in the studio when usually it's like 70 degrees in the studio. And I'm like, oh, great. It's going to be much worse when it's a sunny, bright day out. But the fan did great. Batteries did great. I think I burned through half of both batteries. So let's say 1 full battery after a 5-6 hour shooting day.
That's it.
Yeah. And I didn't really turn the camera off and on. I kind of let it stay on the entire time. And again, overheating didn't happen. I didn't even get 1 bar. The box didn't even show up at all.
And you didn't, it's not the updated firmware that even got rid of the box that was coming on prematurely for people.
Correct. We're on 1.02 still, not 1.03, which I've heard a lot of issues with autofocusing too.
Well,
but
potential issues that we can't verify whether they're actual issues or human error.
I had really 0 issues with any of that. And the fan was set to medium, I think. So when you're shooting, it's not on. And then when you turn it off, when it's on standby, it goes into medium speed the entire time and kind of keeps the camera cool in theory. I did use the 24-105 f2.8, and that lens is incredible for run and gun. If you are a run and gun shooter, that is the lens to get. I will say, though, shooting that specific sport, I was telling you after the fact, I kind of wish I had something like the 50-150 f2 like Sony has, because I needed some more length. I needed a little...
That doesn't have stabilization, though, but...
It doesn't have stabilization, but IBIS would have been good enough. But the 24-105, that IS paired with the IBIS... I mean, it's like shooting on a gimbal almost. I was doing some walk and talk shots with not walk and talk, some follow shots of you walking, and they're fairly steady. I was thinking about bringing a gimbal beforehand, but that combination, the R5 II and that lens, is like 6 pounds, and the gimbal we have would not have supported that. But overall, I had a great time shooting with that camera and no issues. It just felt like I was shooting with the R5.
Yeah.
And no overheating. I was very nervous about that.
Yeah. So for me, the event was tough early. When I was there Monday by myself, no one knows me. That's the hardest thing, is none of the players know me like in other sports. Well, it was the same thing that happened with baseball. It's not like the Phillies guys knew me until they knew me.
And the other issue on the other end is you didn't really know who the players were. You didn't know who the top end players were, where at least with baseball, you kind of know, okay, that's Bryce Harper. You know who the top players are. With this, you're kind of like, who's who?
Well, I know the names.
I know nobody.
But I don't know their faces. They're all wearing hats. They all look the same. They don't all look the same, but it's hard. I also don't see well, but and they didn't have their nameplates out like they did yesterday behind where they were driving. Their names were out so you could see it.
And when they're driving, you really only see the back of them. And again, they're wearing hats. So it's very hard to be like, wait, who is that?
I did get some nice side shots, which were challenging and probably crossing a line, but they are really good photos. And so if you can do that and get the good shots, that's really what matters.
I also feel like all eyes were on us in terms of like security. I feel like everyone was staring us down because we were running around like little maniacs. And typically, I feel like most media does not do that at a professional PGA event.
I didn't get that feeling at all.
I definitely saw a lot of eyes on us, for sure.
Well, I think they're looking at me, Steven, my guns. Now, I think they're really looking at the camera.
I just hope we weren't distracting, that's all.
Yeah, no one said anything to me.
No one said anything to me either, but I could see everyone kind of giving us that look.
Well, I thought I was getting that look too until they start talking and they're like, "Oh, how old is that camera? That thing looks cool." So it's really not, well, look, we're media and we have access to do this, and it's on practice days. Let me reiterate.
Yes.
Practice days, not days where the competition matters. That is a total, like, I'm not going out on the putting green or the practice green or the driving range when I go back for the tournament. I'm not going out there. That's done. I'm done with that. Everything now, all the behind the scenes stuff that I could get is done. Everything else is just going to be what it's going to be. The action.
And you're staying far away, right? This time around, you're kind of getting more of a vista shot.
Yeah. Yesterday, during a practice round, I did go up to one of the players, Tony Finau, and I asked him if he's cool with me tooling around with him during his pro-am, and then I was like, hey, there's going to be a couple of clicks. Is that okay? Because it's going to be before your swing. He's like, yeah, it's a pro-am. He's like, no big deal. Go for it.
I thought they were going to be like that for practice. I mean, at least the pro-am they're playing, but practice is practice, man. We're talking practice.
Yeah, we're talking practice. It is what it is. But what I will tell you is when the Tuesday when we were out there in the morning, not only was it overcast and the rain was sporadic in and out, it was very difficult being that I didn't know anybody. But when Michael Collins got there, we went out and it got sunny, some cool clouds in the sky. Michael literally walked up to everybody because he knows everybody. He's like, yo, it's my man over here. Look, check out, isn't that camera cool? And then he's like, look at this picture he got of Tony Finau. You guys want one? You should get one. But so he has the picture on his phone. I have the physical book from the my baseball book, so it shows people what I've done. And also I had some prints that I printed that people could see in the media center, but I also took one of them out just in case. But let me say the media center thing real quick is in the media center, I printed out, not there physically at the studio, I printed out 16 by 20s and a couple of 8 by 10s, and I left them on my desk there. There's a whole big desk area. Everybody can set up places, and I left them out so that when people walk by, they can stop and look. That was the whole point of leaving them out and printing them, was so that people could see the results, and then it just starts to click in people's minds. That's why when it's the first time out here, people are a little more looking at you because they're not sure what you're going to get. But when you start showing them the work, they are like, holy shit, everybody wants it. So Michael going around asking people was so helpful that like we literally went out onto the practice grounds, the actual course where guys were practicing, and he'd go up to the tee box and be like, yo, hey, good to see you again. This is my buddy Jared. This is the type of stuff he's doing. You want to stand for a portrait?
He was quite literally a pitch man for you the entire time. I have footage of him. It was the same pitch every time to each player. Like, hey, man, this is my buddy. He does great work. Look at the camera he's shooting with. Here's a picture. He had like a mini portfolio on his phone of your work, and he would show them, and I would see him point to you and then point at the phone every single time. And then you'd see the player just shake his head and be like, yeah, whoa, cool, I'm in. And then they'd walk over. It was the same thing every time.
The good thing about that was being that we were moving around the course is those images all look different. So it's not just the same background, the same thing.
Yeah.
It's wherever we could get it, we got it. And yeah. Are the pictures of a portrait of a guy standing there? Yeah. If I do this again, I think the practice rounds are the good times for me to get out on a course and actually interact. Like if I'm going around with, say, Tony Finau, I could be like, all right, Tony, I want to get to the side of you or, on an angle here. Can you give me a second when you stand over the ball just to focus and then do your thing? And then I will have the ability to do it. But that's what comes with time.
Exactly. I think you need to spend like a day in the life with a player making his rounds and just being a fly on the wall, but having that interaction where you can be like, hey, can you stop for a few minutes and let's take a portrait here? This is great. And it's not during a championship tournament or whatever it may be.
No, that's exactly it.
And hopefully this is that introduction that you need to make that happen.
And the other key thing that I made a note about was this is the importance of having prints and having physical products to show. Yes, the cell phone helps, but having a physical book and a bunch of prints around really sells the process easier.
100%. This is the first time that I've actually witnessed that firsthand. And I will say people were definitely in awe every time you took out the book. They would see the picture, the same picture on the phone, but when you would show a physical print inside the book of said portrait, they would be like, whoa. And they would actually flip through the entire book. There was no like, oh, that's cool. Here you go. It was like, let me take a few minutes out of my time to look at every single, and it helped that there were a lot of other famous people in that book, like Ohtani. Yeah,
the baseball players definitely helped. So it was a challenge. There's a couple days. Their first round is today, which is so insane. I got to give it to the people that work behind the scenes. They are there from 6 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning until at least 6 or 7 at night. And they do that from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's literally a whole week. And then guess what? They fly to the next place and start all over. It is insane the amount of work these guys and girls have to do behind the scenes to cover the PGA event from a social media standpoint and media standpoint.
It's such a massive event in general too. Like just how many trucks were there? The giant media tent, the giant other tents that they had, the catering, everything.
It's a lot of logistics.
I was told that I think that tour stop was added on pretty last minute and they still made it happen.
Yeah, it was like a year ago. I mean, they knew
which
like
is
a
considered
year.
Last minute.
Oh, yeah. So the logistics of it are the course is the Philadelphia Cricket Club. The Philadelphia Cricket Club was founded
not in Philadelphia.
Yeah, well, it's probably just because it was the suburbs and rich people. We're talking, what, 1854? Is that what it is?
Yeah, something like that.
Philly Cricket, 1854. Let's see. Is that what it is? Philadelphia Cricket Club.
There's multiple locations, I think.
Well, there's a couple. There's the one that has the grass, the rackets. Yeah, they've got golf, grass courts. I've been there before. They have grass courts. They have a whole bunch of different things, but I believe it was tennis courts. They have 1854 or something. And it's super old. Could you imagine golfing in 1854? You know what it would look like there?
What?
White?
Yeah.
Yeah. It very white. It was very white in 18, and they wouldn't allow me in there probably back then for being a Jew.
I'm curious what they wore. Were they like rocking full on suits playing golf?
They wore the wool shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
perfect attire for a nice sunny summer day.
Yeah. It was definitely a different thing. It was a gentleman's sport, which I would not be allowed at because not that I'm not a gentleman, but it's just like I would be like, fuck you, I'm not wearing that.
Do you guys have I Shoot Raw wool shirts?
Yeah. Hey, does this come in raw? Like, imagine 1865 photos or 1854. I think it's 1854 photos out there. I mean, this is literally. I mean, when was the Civil War?
1865.
When was Civil War? 1861. So this is pre-Civil War. Insane. The fact that they formed a club back then for golf is just insane.
The fact that it was even a sport back then.
Well, it goes all the way back to the ancient times.
Wow.
Back in Scotland.
I know nothing about golf.
Scottish people used to drop balls and then whack them with racks of lamb. They would take a sheep's horn and they would fashion it to the end of a stick and they would whack it.
Speaking of whacking it, I've been getting a lot more golf balls in my backyard lately, which is not fun. I have a golf course behind my house here, and it's great most of the time, but not when you get kids playing or people that are inexperienced playing and just whacking the ball and hitting my pergola in my house and everything else in my backyard, and hopefully not my child one day. Because when they hit it, that thing comes in it's got to be at least 60, 70 miles an hour. It's fast.
They whack balls pretty hard.
I've got so many dings in my fence that I need to full holes in my fence that I need to fix at this point.
Well, that's just for your daughter to look out one day.
The weird thing is that I'm not directly behind the green. I'm a good 200 feet to the right of that, and it still comes in my backyard.
Steven, if you were there yesterday to watch the pros versus, amateurs play, I almost got hit twice with a ball, and I was nowhere near the fairway.
Yeah.
Like, it is insane how the difference between a pro, it's the same with photography. If you have an amateur next to me and you have me shooting photos, like going on safari and having someone shoot with their cell phone and then me shooting with a real camera, and you look at the photos and you're like, cool shot on your cell phone on safari.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. The golf is just like that. So to wrap up the golf thing, I wasn't planning on going today. I might go because tee times don't start till 11:20 or so, and I might just go for a couple hours, just to try and get some stuff that I can process tomorrow, because I'm definitely not going tomorrow because of the rain.
I think you should definitely go. Why not?
Well, I don't really have much to do here other than relax.
That's my point, yeah.
And process the 7 shots I took, but I'll just leave those here and I'll process those either later tonight, because I want to have... The problem is if you have 7 to develop, I can only do 6 in a tank, and I'm not going to just run a tank with just 1 sheet in, because that's a waste, because I have 2 tanks and I run 12 at a time.
Is today another pro-am day?
No, today is the start of the event. So they go out in I said pairs of 3, but they go out in 3s.
Even if you just walk the grounds and just kind of get a feel for...
No, I already did that. Did that. I've walked enough. I made a note that on hole 13, hole 11, there's a tree off to the left-hand side, which allows me to basically see up the hill, and they should be coming down that hill and chipping from somewhere, which would allow me to do... That's where the tilting is going to come into play, so I can isolate the golfer. And being that we now have pros on the course and not the amateurs at a pro-am with them, it should be more golf-like. So more testing today is because I don't think they'll have a full crowd, but if it looks busy, that it will be even busier on Saturday and Sunday.
See, what you need is a director's viewfinder, and just set that to 4:5 aspect ratio and your focal length, and walk around the entire course and try and find those angles so you can quickly just be like, oh, setting up here. I know exactly where I'm going to be. Boom, done.
You makes it sound like walking around the course is easy.
Oh, I witnessed the other day that it's definitely not. We thankfully had that golf cart from Michael to help truck us around, because that would have been brutal if we had to walk the entire course.
I will not be having a golf cart today, which is so shitty.
Which, by the way, I was on the back of that golf cart because there was only it was a 2-seater basically, and I'm trying to film you one-handed, like with the camera backwards, looking at me and you guys as I'm listening to your conversation, trying to pick up whatever you're talking about, because sometimes it was about the tournament or about players or about the camera stuff, and it would maybe help further that story. I don't know. I didn't know what I was going to get, so I was just kind of filming everything. But trying to one-hand that while holding onto the cart was nearly impossible.
I mean, it's not like Michael almost rolled it around.
Exactly.
Rolled it. Like,
we almost flipped.
We almost flipped. It was going to happen, and I was ready to fucking bail. I don't know where I was going to go, but I'm holding my 4x5 for fuck's sake.
So we were going up this one hill, but almost on like a slant, right? Almost tipped completely over. We were close.
Well, do you know why
I
we
feel like
didn't
the wheels
tip?
were lifting.
Do you want to know why we didn't tip to the right?
Why?
Michael is fucking on the left-hand side. So he's bigger than me. So definitely the weight on the... I should tell him that thankfully he's a little overweight.
He's not that big.
No, but he's heavier, and thankfully that didn't... If he was on the right-hand side, we would have tipped.
Yeah, but me and you both were on the right-hand side.
No, you were more in the middle.
No,
you were on the right-hand
I was on the right-hand side because my camera was in the middle.
Fine. Anyway, let's wrap up the golf part. I'm gonna head back out to the golf course and spend a couple hours, maybe take 5-6 shots, and come back and process them. Now onto the news that's talking. B&H Build is happening on June 17th and 18th, I believe, and I am speaking on the last day of Build at 5 p.m. That is the one that's closing out the show. So if you're around, stick around, come out there. It's free to go. It's Build Expo, I believe. Just go to B&H's website. You'll see Build Expo. You could sign up for free. It's in New York City.
I should be there too. You're going both days, right?
Yeah, I'm going to end up being there both days.
I will most likely only be there the day you're speaking.
That is correct. You'll be there the day I am speaking. I'm trying to find this information from Brandon real quick at Alan's Camera because he's like, hey, this is going to come up. Let's see. We're having a multi-vendor event on May 17th.
Oh.
So at Alan's Camera on May 17th, he asked me if I could be there, and he asked me if I could promote it, and I said, what's it called? And he said, it's the multi-vendor event, and I said, that is a stupid name. You need to come up with something better than multi-vendor event.
Is this what Alan's Palooza was?
It used to be, but that was when Alan was around.
Okay.
But yeah, I would have called it Alan's Palooza 2025. Like, brand it. Like, instead of doing like multi-vendor event. That sounds fun. That sounds like a bunch of GWCs showing up to play with toys. But anyway, it's May 17th. That's in that's next week. No, it's a week from the 10th. Whenever the 10th is.
I will not be going.
Today's the 8th. I'll probably show up, maybe. It depends. It depends on what's going on. But he just let me know.
Always have plans the day they do that.
May 17th.
Yeah.
So that's May 17th. So that's the B&H thing, Build Expo in June, 17th and 18th. And then Brandon's event at Alan's Camera is on the, whatever I just said. What did I say, the 17th?
17th, yeah.
17th. All right. Rumors. Canon R6 Mark III rumored on Canon Rumors. To which they then say that it came from a source that hasn't been reliable in the past, and you should take it with a grain of salt. So, do you have the specs pulled up at all?
Yeah, it's pretty basic specs so far. It looks like a brand new stacked 24 megapixel sensor. R3 sensor has been rumored in the past, they say. Readout speeds between the R1 and the R5 Mark II, which does make sense if it's the R3 sensor because that's where it lies. New rear LCD flippy mechanism. I assume they're going after the Sony line with something like this. Probably some kind of screen that does the best of both worlds, tilting and flippy, let's hope. Digic X and Digic Accelerator, kind of a given. Everything always trickles down from the R5 Mark II and the flagships to the R6 line. C-Log 2 and 3, same thing. 6K RAW at 60 frames per second. Same video that the R3 does for the most part, 4K 120. And that's the only specs we have so far. My guess is that this is going to be a prosumer body with the R3 guts.
You know, it's funny. You see those people commenting that, we put out the 1 year later Canon R5 Mark II real world review, which it's almost a year, but mind you, you guys don't know that I had the camera before it came out.
The first few comments we got, and I knew this would happen. It's been a year already? I don't think it's been a year. You guys had it for a year? You sure it's been a year? And I'm like, oh my God, it's close enough.
No, it's close enough.
This review is going to live on forever. Come on.
And it's not going to change. We like calling it 1 year later, and I had it prior to the thing coming out before anybody knew about it anyway. Yeah, but pretty much the comments, they're like, what is with you? You never say it's like a camera is a pro camera. It's not a pro camera if it doesn't have a grip built in. And I was like, well, yeah, that's correct. It's a more of a prosumer camera, the R5 Mark II, even though it's one of the greatest cameras ever, but it is not built tough like an R1 or an R3. The buttons are not the same. They're not. If anybody has ever used an R3 or an R1, you realize that the buttons have a different tactile feel, and it feels more professional versus less professional. The R5 Mark II is a fantastic camera, but no, I don't consider it a pro body because it doesn't have that pro build quality. And I don't care about weather sealing, but there's a big difference between the pro body weather sealing and the amateur body or the prosumer body.
Well,
sealing.
I would say weather sealing is pretty much the same, and they both also have the magnesium alloy shell of a body. So
one has a fan vent.
One has a fan vent, yes, but they still consider it weather sealed. That was one of the big questions we had in the beginning. Like, is it still weatherproof? And they're like, yeah, it's still the same weather sealing, which I don't fully understand, but
with a hole in it, with holes on the side. It's like, no.
So yeah, if you guys haven't watched that video yet, the R5 Mark II 1 year later full review is now out. It's a really good video. Did you watch it yet?
I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah.
It bored me to watch myself. And I didn't have time. Honestly, I didn't have time. And I can't go to 4x speed yet.
It's the cliff notes. It's the summary of all of our past videos on the R5 Mark II. So that's the initial preview, hands-on preview, the autofocus review, the sensor review where we test out high ISO, rolling shutter,
Real-world usage.
the comparison between the R5 and R3, the unboxing, user guide. It's all of that essentially into one video, breaking down the best parts of those videos into one, and just anything else too, anything from the past year that you've shot after that initial first hands-on preview. And I think it's a really solid video. These videos take forever to make because they are picking pieces out of every single video we've done on that camera in the past. And yeah, check it out if you haven't. It's a good 26-minute watch.
So back to the R6 Mark III here. Could you imagine a camera with R3 speed shooting, stack sensor, the newer autofocus in a smaller, in that not pro body?
The funny thing is we thought that the R6 II was going to be that. If you remember, the rumors were also saying the R3 sensor back then, and we kept saying the same thing. Like, could you imagine if that's the case? Like a $2,500 R3 essentially in a non-pro body? I mean, I think that would make sense because the R3 at that point will be 5+ years old. And then you'll have half the resolution that the R5 Mark II has. So you're not really cannibalizing that line. And maybe they'll limit the shooting to like 20 frames per second and not 30. I could see that happening. I don't think they're going to give it everything the R3 had, but I think it'll be close.
It's going to be interesting to see, and whatever the price point is. But it's just crazy to think about the technology and how it's changed, and people still bitch and moan about all this shit as if we don't have the greatest tools since sliced bread for taking photos compared to me running around with a 4x5 or someone dragging a cart on the Oregon Trail, right?
Yeah,
big difference.
The R6 III, though, does have to compete now with something like the Z6 III that does have that
partially
stacked sensor.
Oh, what? It's not much of a competition in my mind.
Well, and the partially stacked sensor isn't really that much faster than the R6 II sensor because the R6 II readout's like 15 milliseconds, and I think the partially stacked is like 14 when you're shooting RAW. It's more like 11 when you're shooting JPEG, though. So it's pretty damn close. But if they give the R3 sensor, then that's much different.
The other rumor is, for a while, Canon rumors for over a year has been talking about a 200 to 500 f4 to replace the 200 to 400, and now they're like, oh, that's been shelved. From what I've been aware of, I haven't heard anything, and I don't think that's ever existed at any point. But I don't know where they get this stuff. But now they've switched to talking about a 300 to 600 5.6 potential from Canon, which is interesting when you have Sigma's 300 to 600 f4.
Well, I assume it's going to be a much smaller, lighter, hand-holdable lens than something like the 300 to 600 f4. I just hope it doesn't come in at the same price point as the 300 to 600 f4.
Yeah, I don't think it will. I just don't think it will. I think you're looking at $3,000, half the price at least.
And Canon has been doing much more of the budget-friendly super telephoto zoom lenses, like something like the 200 to 800. So we'll see. I mean, that's a nice option, but I still question: do you prefer a 200 to 500 f4 over something like a 300 to 600 f5.6?
A lot of it comes to weight.
The 200 to 500 f4 would have definitely been a much bigger lens and a much more expensive lens, I'm sure.
Yeah, that would have been a $14,000 lens.
Easily that, yeah.
Still, the 100 to 500 is a 4.5 to 7.1. That's what I had my guys use in Kenya on the R3. I gave them 100 to 500s.
Yeah.
And, I look at some of those images and I get a little jealous. I'm like, what the fuck? Because of the versatility and the whatever. Like sometimes a little more depth of field was good, but in other times it wasn't. 2.8 was still better. But, they still got great results. So 300 to 600, I mean, now we're one stop different from the Sigma, so f4, and then that's already a stop different from a 2.8. So you're going to see differences at 5.6 versus 2.8.
Yeah, but it's such a long focal length that, that compression alone is going to give you a nice blurry, creamy background, even at 5.6.
Well, you know how I'll have to test it. I actually have two R3s, so I could use the same camera if I wanted. Put them both on an R3. Put a 600 f4 on an R3, and put a 600. Go to 600 on the other one at 5.6 and show the difference. Oh well, that's only one. Actually, that's only one stop difference.
I was going to say also take your 100 to 300, shoot at 300 2.8, and then show this 300 5.6 and show that difference.
Yep. Yeah, that's something you can do as well. So I would end up doing that. I would just focus on the picture probably.
But imagine that pairing, though. I mean, the 100 to 300 2.8 with this lens, you can pretty much handhold both of them. There's no more monopod needed. I mean, that's a really stellar setup. But at the same time, it's also an incredibly expensive setup. We'll see.
We'll see what happens. I mean, 300 to 600, I like the range of 3 to 6. Obviously, 1 to 5 was a very nice range, but 300 to 600 is a you saw what I did with the Sigma lens. It's the same exact thing when it comes to focal distance.
I just hope it is an internal zooming lens. I hope it is not external zooming like most of their budget-friendly super telephoto zoom lenses are. I hope it's like the 100 to 300, like a premium build L lens. I mean, it is an L lens, but then again, also the 100 to 500 is an L lens, and it seems more on the cheaper end when you hold it. The external zooming and all.
Yeah. Well, I want to wrap it up. Do we have any other notes in there?
No, just check out the R5 Mark II when you get a chance. I think it's a worthy watch.
Yeah, I want to head. I don't really want to go, but
I think you should go.
I'm gonna go again. But yeah, because I don't know what else I would do here other than develop my negatives and then sit around going, what am I supposed to do today?
And there's been many times in the past where days like today, where you didn't really plan on doing much, you end up getting the best stuff. So you never know.
We'll see. I think I've gotten some really good stuff so far. The stuff that we got with the portraits, even though they're not as tack sharp as I would want. Again, I'm like such a stickler when it comes to that because I'm so used to it.
And I don't think you should be when it comes to the 4x5 large format film, because I feel like film is much more forgiving with focus. It almost adds to the aesthetic.
No. Nope.
I'm just saying, if it's a little off and you don't need to zoom in 1,000,000%, I think you're fine.
If it looks fine. So the problem is I'm scanning at super high resolution, 2400 DPI. And when I go 100%, I don't know how big that is. Like, it's probably massive. But if I print it out as a 16 by 20 and you can't tell, then that's a fucking win.
Exactly.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So that's that. Yeah. So this episode 150, I've been thinking about doing daily froze. And then what happens is I get really behind because I'm like, well, if I do that, that's going to take 20 minutes. But I don't want to do them daily, as I've always said. It's just called daily fro, just like 5-minute portraits. But there were ones that I wanted to do, but I got so busy that I'm like, I don't want to, I'm not going to stop my work to do this. But anyway, they'll happen when they feel like happening, and they'll be put out because I know some people like them, some people don't.
Yeah.
And that's it. All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Jared Polin, FrontNosePhoto.com. See ya.
Bye.